Hi there, this is Solitaire from Solitaire Films, and welcome to another episode of my director collections, where I just go through my collection and pick out the editions that I have of certain directors. Today it's Takeshi Kitano, beat Takeshi. When he's a comedian, he's probably more famous in Japan as a comedian rather than a filmmaker. He's also an actor, artist. A lot of his art features in his own films. He's still fairly enigmatic. He's appeared in Hollywood blockbusters, unfortunately. His latest, so I have all of his films apart from his latest two. So he did Neck in 2023, which still doesn't really have a release on physical media. And in 2024 he did a 62-minute film. I actually thought Neck was going to be his last one, but he did a 62-minute one as well, which hopefully the two of them might be paired up in a release at some point. The first time I saw Kitano was Violent Cop, which just absolutely blew me away. A story that we've seen before, but just Kitano's editing style is wonderful, his sense of humour is wonderful, very dry. I actually saw another one of his films in a cinema in London, can you believe it? And I've really been hooked ever since Violent Cop. We talk about Clint Eastwood's walk or the John Wayne walk that Neanderthals enjoy walking. But Takeshi Kitano's shambling walk is just one of the great walks in cinema history. So again, I'm just going to go through them in no particular order. Kikijiro, Kitano's heartwarming wandering story of a gangster and a little kid who just go for a walk and meet strange characters along the way. This Third Window release has a 90-minute documentary on the making of, which is a rather fantastic extra. Kikijiro's a lot of fun, and I know the Bulgarian Troglodyte, it might be his favourite Kitano film. And then a film that doesn't have Kitano in it, but it's still wonderful, Kids Return. Again, this is in Third Window, which has a making of and a commentary by film scholar Aaron Gerow. Again, lots of these films have music by Joe Hisaishi, which is wonderful. And then another one that doesn't feature him, one of his more quieter ones. I mean, it's a U certificate. This is A Scene at the Sea, again in Third Window, and this is a commentary by Jasper Sharp, who always does a good job with his Asian film commentaries. And then a reimagining or remake, if you will, of the famous Zatoichi series with Kitano with blonde hair playing the blind masseur. I mean, this has trademark Kitano humour, so this is a period piece, very much like Neck. He hasn't done that many period pieces, but it's got comedy, wonderful action, and it's also got just an amazing musical number. And then probably his most famous film, Hanabi or Fireworks. This is an Asian import. I'm not actually sure of the label. I mean, all his trademark cutting, his films are violent, or sometimes violent, but a lot of the time the violence is in the cut. And this one has a nice booklet as well. Again, great support in a lot of his films from Ren Oshugi, who's sadly no longer with us, or Susumu Terajima, who's absolutely fantastic, both of whom are in Hanabai. Then again, back to Third Window, arguably his best film without him in it, maybe. Dolls. I mean, this needs a 4K because it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, all of his films probably need 4Ks because they just look so good. This one's got an interview with Kitano, Miho Kano, Hidetoshi Nishijima and Yohei Yamamoto behind the scenes, and the video from the film's premiere at the Venice Film Festival. Third Window again, Getting Any. This is his sex comedy, if you will, but this is actually, it was better than I thought it was going to be. Sometimes humour doesn't translate all the way around the world, but I actually quite loved this. So this one's got a commentary by Sean Redmond, which is the author of Cinema, Takeshi Kitano, Flowering Blood, an interview with Kitano, and it has a slipcover, unbelievable. So that was actually pleasantly surprising. Obviously you have to have a certain sense of humour, and again this is the Third Window release of Hanabai, which has a commentary by critic Mark Schilling, and a new trailer. Apologies, English language is not my first language. My first language is gibberish. Then we've got the BFI box set of Violent Cop, Boiling Point and Sonatine, his first 3 films. Again, I did actually see Sonatine in a cinema, unbelievable. And it's got a very nice glossy book. And quite nicely, each film has its own disc, so it's not just like 3 films on one disc. And this is loaded with special features. So we have feature-length audio commentaries. I really can't talk. Violent Cop and Sonatine by Chris D, author of Outlaw Masters of Japanese Cinema, and there's a new commentary on Boiling Point by David Jenkins. There's a 20-minute piece from 2016, That Man is Dangerous, The Birth of Takeshi Kitano, which is a documentary, strange enough, about Kitano. Okinawa Days, Kitano's second debut, 20-minute piece, looking back on Boiling Point from 2016, and there's trailers, and again there's a 44-page book and pieces by Tom Mays, Jasper Sharp, Mark Schilling and James Misaki Ryan. So this is a wonderful set that I would highly recommend if you want these first 3. And then this is a Film Movement Classics edition of Violent Cop. So this is a region A. Again, comes with internal artwork and a lovely booklet with nice artwork. And again, this has That Man is Dangerous featurette. Then we have one of my favourite, arguably my favourite, of his later films, Achilles and the Tortoise. And this is hilarious. Again, if you're into Kitano's sense of humour, then you'll find it hilarious. If not, you'll probably go, what the hell's that? This is about Kitano and his wife. Kitano's a struggling artist who may or may not actually be that good, who just kind of jumps from one trend to the next. Obviously it's a nice little, he has kind of almost self-satire films, which I'll point out when I get to them. But this is definitely one of them, critiquing trends and chasing trends. Great performances, especially by the actress who plays his wife, and his daughter, who's obviously very frustrated with him. And then the second part of his Outrage trilogy, Beyond Outrage. This is a region A, which has a 62-minute making of. The Outrage films are some of the bleakest films that he's made. You could be forgiven for forgetting which one's which, but if you just watch them all together as one big smorgasbord of Yakuza nihilism. Here is the film movement of Boiling Point, again a Region A. With artwork and a booklet. And then a film he shot in America, but fortunately that didn't mean he would suddenly make Fast and Furious films. Brother, which I think is really underrated, has one of the best scenes in Kitano's cinema, where Susumu Terajima makes the ultimate sacrifice so another gang can actually help out Kitano's gang. It's just a brilliant moment and a brilliant performance. Yeah, Brother, an underrated entry in his filmography. And then another one of his pokes at himself, Glory to the Filmmaker. Again, this is wonderful satire of himself and of the filmmaking process. Arguably his funniest film. Again, this is another Japanese import, but they're multi-region. And then the first Outrage. This has a making of and cast and crew interviews. And then the last one, the Outrage Coda. This might actually be the best one in the trilogy. This has a making of and lots of his trailers. Again, this one's actually multi-region. There's somebody standing shooting with a gun, which happens quite often in Kitano films. Again, I think he might have the reputation of like being a one-trick pony, but I think he's a little bit more than that. And this is the Outrage trilogy. This is a German set. Again, they each have their own Blu-ray disc. And there's Kitano shooting a frog. It doesn't actually have English subtitles, but for the Outrage trilogy you don't really need English subtitles. You can follow along with the nihilistic fun. And then we have which I can't even remember, is it Rucci and the Seven Henchmen, about older gangsters trying to fit into the modern world. Again, this is rather amusing, perhaps not Kitano's finest film, but there's a lot of entertainment and joy to be had. And then probably my favourite of his films, Sonatine. Again, I just have good memories of actually seeing it in the cinema from 1994. Again, it just has that brilliant Kitano sense of humour, scenes on the beach, great editing, wonderful ending, and again he has a kind of different approach to shootouts. It's literally two groups of people just standing and shooting at each other. There's no John Woo diving about in slow motion. Sonatine, absolutely wonderful. And then finally another one of his self-satires, Takeshi's. Again, this is a Japanese Blu-ray, but they're all multi-region. And this is Kitano himself, but he meets somebody who looks a lot like him. Again, I wasn't a huge fan of it the first time I saw it, but on repeated viewings it does grow on you. So that's Takeshi's. So we're just waiting for Neck. and the shorter film that he made in 2024 to get physical releases, hopefully. I mean, I think there is a Chinese knockoff, but I'm not going to buy that. I'm assuming at some point we'll get a physical release for Neck. It is weird because obviously we know it's all about rights and things like that, but it's bizarre to me that Kitano's not the Criterion. Maybe it is and I've just completely blanked, but it's a wee bit weird to me that Kitano's not in the Criterion, because he is a seminal filmmaker of the last 35 years. And to me he's right up there with Tsukamoto as the greatest Japanese directors of the last 35 years. So thanks so much for watching. Please let me know how many editions of Kitano films you have, or what your favourite Kitano films are. Again, another filmmaker like Cronenberg and Lanthimos that's perhaps not for everybody, but it tends to be, if you like Kitano, you love Kitano, which I suppose is a bit like Cronenberg and Lanthimos, I suppose. Yeah, thanks very much for watching this Japanese-centric edition of my director collections, and hopefully you'll join me again for more of these videos. So thanks very much for watching. This is Solitude Ronin from Solitude Ronin Films, saying farewell.